Welcome to the Insurance Producers Podcast, where we bring you the top personalized producers, insurance agents, and industry partners, giving you at least 3 takeaways to 10x your production and build your multi-million-dollar revenue books. So sit back, relax, and become inspired by the success stories and strategies of the world's top insurance minds. Let's roll. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Cyrus Jaffrey, your host here at Insurance Producers Podcast. Man, I'm excited to welcome, I'm not sure if he's a Dallas Mavericks fan, but from Dallas, Texas, and Jeremy McClure, man. What's happening?
Hey, man. I am definitely a Mavs fan, and that win the other night was amazing. We're looking for another
That's
one.
cool. Dude, I'm all about you guys beating the Wolves. I'm a big Nuggets fan, and we should have beat them. I think it would have been a better matchup for us and you guys. I think it'd be more exciting versus what you guys are. I think we tired them out, man. They're exhausted from what they had to deal with the Joker. But cool, man. So Jeremy McClure, man, you're in Dallas, Texas, man. You've got an agency, McClure Agency, and tell us a little bit, man, how you got in the industry, how the agency is set up, what are you guys focusing on, and we'll roll from there.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, everybody always says that, you kind of either are born into insurance or you fall into insurance. I definitely was not born into insurance. I fell into it. I was in construction for over a decade. COVID hit. I got laid off. I kind of just randomly came across an advertisement for an insurance agency that needed somebody in the service department. So I started managing a service team of about 30 agents for a small agency at the time. Then that agency dealt with some issues that came across from COVID and some, the market transition. And so I ended up having to leave them kind of right on the brink of things, kind of hitting a head, unfortunately. Went back into construction, got laid off from construction again. I said, you know what? I'm tired of getting laid off. I'm going to go back into insurance and figure out what I can do. Got into insurance and kind of got thrown into the trucking sales side of insurance. So I learned a lot real quick, got thrown in, had to learn a lot. I did a lot of social media lead generation to get some better leads because trucking leads are not cheap, unfortunately. They're probably one of the most expensive leads that you can purchase. Some of them are, anywhere from $250, $500 per lead, whether you sell it or not. And I didn't really like that aspect. So I started going out and getting my own leads. And after a while of doing organic social media leads, I decided, you know what, I can do this on my own. So I created my own agency, the McClure Agency, back in July of last year. We've been in, I think that's about 9-10 months now, just past $1 million in premium sold over the last 9 or 10 months. So we're doing kind of on track for what I would like to be doing going forward. But yeah, we specialize in trucking insurance, but we handle home, auto, all personal lines of insurance.
Yeah. What's the agency dynamics? Do you have any team members right now, or how's that?
Not yet. So right now it's just me, solo agency over here. I had thought about hiring a couple of VAs for some servicing side, for some admin, data entry. And right when I was ready to pull the trigger on a VA, I really kind of came into automation and kind of what automation can do for the agency. So I really started building out my automations to the point where if I need a VA at this point, it's going to be for very specific tasks that can't be done automatically. They have to be done manually. I'm I'd say about a month away from hiring a VA, less than a month away from hiring. I'm looking at 2 different sales agents right now to help on the sales side. But right now with the automations I have set up for certificates of insurance, for accord forms, etc., I don't have to touch any of that stuff. So a lot of that back end processing that really bogs down the producer or the production of the agency is kind of automated right now to make it a lot easier and make us more focus on the sale at hand. And be able to increase those sales. So I'm going to try and start with those couple sales agents, and then maybe, like I said, add a VA or 2 to help with those little nuggets that we can't necessarily automate, unfortunately. We're getting close, though. AI is helping out a ton as well, so we're getting close to almost automating everything. I don't want to automate 100%. I still want some personal touch in there, and I definitely believe in the personal touch and the relationship building, so I'm never going to go 100%, but I would love to get to like an 80 or 90% range.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, for right now, man, there's a lot of one-man shops in the insurance world. Whether you're a producer for a large agency or whether you're a small agency owner, what kind of one-man shop. So if you're not automating right now, man, all you're doing is certificates.
Oh yeah, all day, every day. Yeah, I mean, so my policies average about 20,000 per policy. We're above a million. I don't want to do the math in my head right now. I don't have the
Yeah.
specific numbers of how many I've got, but I mean that's
Hmm.
at least 5 to 10
Yeah.
clients reaching out almost a day
Yeah.
for
50
certificates of insurance.
accounts. You have
Yeah.
about 50 accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, so every couple of days we got people reaching out for certificates of insurance. Once you get to a point where you've had a trucking client on the books for 3 or 4 months, then you might have gotten the majority of those certificates done, but there's still going to be a couple trickle through here or there.
Yeah. Very cool. So for people, man, that like are what's this first year been like, man? Like the
Ooh,
ups and the downs. Like, I mean, tell us for people that are into it, trying to go into it on their own, or they're like, give us a little context of what that look like. What's that look like?
absolutely. So I'll say, I mean, when you open any business, I've actually opened 4 businesses in the last 12 months. So don't do what I'm doing. That's too many. I've got an automation business, an insurance business, my wife's hair salon, construction business, all sorts of things. But when you open any business, what I've learned is that anything that can go wrong, first of all, will go wrong. The things
Mhm.
that you thought would never go wrong, or that you thought if it went wrong, this is what I'm going to do, and this is my backup plan and my plan C, that's still not going to be enough. That's something is still going to happen that's out of your control. So when I started the agency, one thing I didn't take into account at the time was just how long it could take for certain appointments, not to get approved, but to just go through. You can get an approval on an
Mhm.
appointment day one, and then it takes 3 months for you to actually have access
Mhm.
to that carrier.
Mhm.
And so knowing that, and knowing that whatever niche you're in, or even if you're not in a niche, maybe you're just doing home and auto insurance, knowing that you might start out with your first couple months only having 1 or 2 options for your clients. And in a tough market right now, that's very hard to beat either the price or the quality. You have to really build that relationship in order to prove to your leads and your clients that you're going to be the one that they want to stick with, whether you have the best price or not. So that was definitely probably the biggest hurdle, was dealing with that time frame. But then second, if you're a producer now and you plan on going out outside of your agency and creating your own, I always say that you want to basically build your agency before you own your agency.
Mhm.
So you want to start that process. You want to understand the processes in the background. You maybe want to have your email address already created. You want to have spreadsheets. You want to have all that back end stuff that you think you're going to have time to do. You will not have time to set it up after you initially take that first step to create your own agency. So if you do all that beforehand, obviously you can't get an appointment with a carrier you already have an appointment with. That's going to cause a red flag with your current agency. But definitely try and build out those processes and make sure everything, as much as you can, is taken care of before you take that first step, because it will take a month or two to get up and running with those appointments. And then as soon
Mhm.
as you get those appointments, everything is just constantly running, and you never have a chance really to go back and kind of update those things.
Yeah. Well, why trucking, man?
It's a good question. I grew up around trucking, and my dad was in trucking for probably 30 something years in
Okay.
total before he ended up retiring. And he had always told me never to get into trucking. Like that was his one his one thing for me when it came to a career, is don't get into trucking. It's volatile. It's ridiculous. You don't want to do it. Yada yada yada. And so I stayed away from trucking practically my whole life. And then when I fell into that agency, that was primarily what they were wanting to do, because there was a lot of money in trucking, and the market hadn't really hit the trucking industry yet,
Mhm.
or the rough market hadn't. So it was a lot easier to get those sales. So yeah, I started diving headfirst into it. And after a month or so of working in any niche in insurance, you start to pick up on things enough to where you at least sound like you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And the more you sound like you know what you're doing, the more confidence you have in it, the easier it is to kind of build up that reputation. And now I've got a huge reputation on social media and on Facebook for trucking, and I'm not planning on looking back now.
Yeah. 100%. So on the trucking side, man, obviously you run into a lot of people across the country. That's why I think you said 38 states
38 states currently is
that
what we're riding
that
in yet.
that you're writing in. And are you writing home and auto personalized and stuff like that for those truckers, or you kind of just have the personal stuff like that for like in Dallas, Texas, for example?
So I write home and auto primarily in the surrounding states of Texas, for anybody, any of my friends, any family, any referrals that I come across. I don't necessarily market for home and auto, but they definitely come in pretty consistently. outside of the surrounding states of Texas, I'm really only going to write home and auto if it's a current client or if it's a trucking client. I always want to round out that account and make sure that I have everything taken care of that I can. Everybody knows with every line of business that you add for one account, the percentage just increases dramatically for that retention. So yeah, I definitely have trucking clients in various states that I've written home and auto for. It can get difficult though. Trucking is practically the same every single state because it's federally regulated. The FMCSA regulates it. So if they're crossing state lines, 99% of the time, it's going to be the same from state to state. Home and auto is definitely not the same. Even from carrier, the same carrier in a different state has drastic changes. So that can be, tough to kind of manage. So we really try and pinpoint it to only current clients so that we're not having to manage that for any leads that might be coming in those other states.
Yeah. What's the trucking world like, man? I know personalized is really tough, especially in Dallas, Texas, and other states. Is trucking as volatile as it is with personalized, or as tough to write as well, or?
So it's very volatile in regards to the companies themselves, the truckers themselves. A lot of new ventures coming in, coming out within 3 to 6 months, failing. Maybe they spent too much money up front. When it comes to the market and the carrier side of things, if you have the appointment, it is relatively easy. I won't say easy, but comparatively to home and auto, to get the policy bound. You're not going to deal with a ton of different underwriting guidelines that are changing daily. You don't have pre-bind verification like you do on some of these home and auto situations. So that is very nice. But the biggest issue in trucking right now is a lot of these carriers that were providing pretty quick access for appointments are now having strict guidelines and requirements in order to get access. So some of the carriers I have access to now, I wouldn't have access to if I had tried to get access just a couple months ago or a couple months after I got access, because they changed their requirement from no requirement for premium bound or trucking premium bound to now $1 million in premium, $5 million in premium. Some say you have to be in business for 3 years. Some say you have to have an actual location, a physical location. I work out of the house 100%. So I don't have a physical location to refer to. So I do lose out on a couple of appointments and could have lost out on a lot more if I had tried to get those appointments just a few months later than what I did.
Yeah. So on the new venture side, man, because I told you we have a little bit of a trucking department, and well, we've learned into, man, some of those chargebacks. If you're not used to it and you're getting like a check for like $20,000, and then you're like, yeah, let's go, and then like 2 months later, man, you got to return 18 grand of it back.
Yeah,
those get like, well, how do you like? Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, it's a nightmare to say the least. The biggest thing is, you kind of have to go back into a mindset of a producer, in my opinion. So when you're a producer, right, you're waiting for that money to hit. Sometimes it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, depending on the agency you work with. And then when it does hit, you know that as long as the policy lasts X amount of months, then you won't have to pay it back. So when you go into the actual agency side and the agency owner and you're responsible for all of that, you have to keep that mentality, but then you also have to understand, even once you get past that 3 or 6 months, there's still a chance that policy will come back, and you don't get off the hook like you might be able to as a producer. And so you've always got that chance. So what I try and do, don't succeed all the time, but I try to increase sales every single month, essentially, so that whatever comes off from the prior month or the prior 2 months is then replaced by what's coming back on this next month. It's probably not the perfect plan. It's not the easiest thing to uphold, but that's really what I'm trying for. But I also, after dealing with so many new ventures, I'm now starting to target and market to carriers that have been around for 3 years, that have been around for 5 years, that maybe they go up and down with their drivers and their trucks, but they never go under. And as long as that business stays running, then if I do get a chargeback, it's not going to be a shot in the leg type of chargeback. Because I've definitely, I think the largest chargeback hit at once that I've received was about 15 grand across a few different policies. So that's definitely not fun to get that invoice.
Yeah, certainly rough, man. So on the trucking side, what are some carriers, man, you're having success if somebody's trying to get into the trucking side or their agency? What are some carriers that you're having success?
Yeah, Progressive's probably the easiest. If you're already in trucking, or if you've talked to truckers, there's going to be a lot of smack talking about Progressive. I think that happens in the personal lines as well. They're so large that they cover so much of the industry. I think they cover some insane percentage, like 70 or 80% of truckers or something like that. So there's always going to be goods and bads in regards to it. But Progressive's the easiest to get access to. They're the easiest to write with. They write, I always say that they're like a melting pot for truckers because they cover almost any type of trucker you can imagine, as long as they have a somewhat good record. So Progressive's one. Berkshire Hathaway Home State Company is another one that's easy to get access to. Typically, the only thing about them is they can be expensive in certain states, and they are kind of restrictive in certain states. So if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Washington, Oregon, those are perfect for Berkshire Hathaway. Any other state, it's going to be hit or miss. Coverwell is one. They're more of like an MGA, but they have like a carrier style system that's used in order to quote things. So you get instant quotes. Coverwell is not the best when it comes to payments, unfortunately. It's just kind of delayed in regards to getting paid by Coverwell. So if you're going to do that as a producer or as an agency owner, just be careful knowing that it could take a while to get paid, but they are a good partner to have. And then outside of those three, a lot of them are through MGAs. Sometimes you can get direct access, but Trisura, Great West Casualty, Erie, if you're up in the Midwest to Northeast section states, if you have an actual agency in those areas, Erie is extremely good. I've never heard any negative about Erie whatsoever, whether you're an agent, producer, client, whatever. The biggest negative I would say about them is that they're only in those specific states. So unfortunately, I don't have access to Erie directly. But yeah, those are definitely some ones to look out for.
Yeah, Erie is definitely like very captive to themselves, from what I'm at least hearing from a lot of people. We don't have them here in Nebraska. Erie is not in our state by any means, but Coverwell, man, their commission, they really got to figure their commission stuff out because they're pissing off a lot of agents. So
yeah, they're losing a lot. There's so many agents where they have one hiccup with Coverwell, they'll never touch Coverwell again, and I don't blame them. The hiccups are pretty severe, and there's even been nightmare stories of chargebacks coming in before the commission was ever paid out. It's like, how can I owe you thousands of dollars that you never paid me? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's 100%. But I think they're a good carrier, like you said. I mean, right now, man, from what I'm understanding on the personal line side in Dallas, in Texas, in general, like what's that look like on the personal line side, man? Is it like the sky's falling or what?
It's rough. I mean, shoot, I'm in Dallas right now, and last night the sky was literally falling. We had 80-mile-per-hour winds. The trees in my neighborhood are all torn down, a couple on roofs, a couple on fences, and that goes for about 5 miles south of me and about 30 miles north of me. The storms here have been getting pretty bad over the last few years. The freezes, the ice storms, the hail, baseball, golf ball, all the way up to softball size hail. So the industry as a whole in the DFW Metroplex, but across Texas has been hit pretty hard. So yeah, I mean, there's carriers left and right that have either pulled out completely, where they are acting like they're never going to write another policy here. Nationwide has non-renewed a ton of stuff. Progressive is really my main option for home and auto in Dallas right now. I tried to get the General just for some non-standard stuff, but I don't have a physical location, so I couldn't get access to them. I have Allstate, but Allstate is expensive in the DFW area. If you go further south, it opens up a little bit, but I'm talking, I mean, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 for a regular home policy, like a generic or general home policy. So yeah, it's a tough market. National General's not writing right now in DFW. Travelers isn't writing right now in DFW for new appointments or newer appointments. So you might get appointed with them. And one thing I think I would also note, if you're going to be joining an aggregator, if you're leaving as a producer, opening up an agency, or you ever have that in your mind, just make sure that when you talk to whoever you're going to get access to these carriers, you understand that even though they're appointed with them, you want to know if they're able to write in that area at that time. Because there's aggregators out there that are appointed to 100 different carriers, but they're not allowed to write with them. So that appointment means nothing. So just always kind of be a little bit more specific in your intentions there.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a tough time for sure. And you got into it, man, at like the toughest of it all, like the last 10 or 11 months, right? I mean, I've been pretty tough. Good thing you have trucking, dude, to be honest with you.
That's what I keep falling back on is the fact that I've got trucking, and the fact that, like I said before, the relationships that I built in these Facebook communities. I mean, I'm a part of over 250 groups on Facebook, which I don't recommend that for anybody either. That's too many. But I've got a lot of automations and AI that assist with managing and reviewing and reaching out in those groups, which is very helpful. So yeah, the relationships that I built in there, the fact that I've got these referrals coming in, there's people that are waiting, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks just to get a quote from me, which kind of sucks on my side because I need to have that sales producer, like I was talking about, in order to
Uh-huh.
help with some of those leads coming in. But at the same time, it feels good knowing that there are people out there that respect me enough, or at least what I'm doing enough to kind of, wait for that quote to come through before they make a decision.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So as far as the groups go, man, I'm assuming that's where a lot of your successes come in. What are some things that producers should be doing if they're not in groups? What are some successes you're having?
Yeah. So the first thing is to join a group, period. I don't care what group it is. I don't care if it's a community group, whether it is a dance group or an athletics group, or you've got kids that are in certain, areas of the community. Join those groups and engage. Don't talk about insurance. Don't sell insurance. Don't say you're an insurance agent. Just engage. Start to learn exactly how these groups function, what works, what doesn't work, what they want to talk about, what they don't want to talk about. And after a couple months of kind of building those relationships, your name might come up in there. And maybe you do mention that you're an insurance agent. If you're trying to get into a specific niche, like I am, where I'm in these trucking groups, I join these trucking groups. But again, I don't sell, I educate. If people have questions about trucking, if they're trying to open up an agency, or not an agency, a trucking company, I tell them how to file for their LLC. I tell them who to go through or to do it themselves. I give them the links and the websites, and I notify them of exactly what steps to take. And I do all of that to not just build their trust, selfishly build their trust, but also because in this industry as a whole, I mean, we need more people helping out,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. And the more that, and I always tell my truckers this, that the more money they make, the more money I make. As
Mm-hmm.
an agency owner, I am directly responsible and directly only being paid based off of their profits and their ability to stay open. As a producer, you might not always have that same mentality. I think you should take that mentality. Sometimes you can get in and get out, whether they're making money or not. You'll still make your money on the front end. But definitely, if you want your agency to succeed, if you want to be seen as a better professional when it comes to your owners or your management, if you're able to retain those policies past what those marks show on your reports, past the 3 months, the 6 months, whatever it is, if you're writing good business that's lasting year after year after year, your company's never going to want to get rid of you. First of all, you're going to open yourself up to bonuses, to promotions. And let's say none of that happens for whatever reason, you're going to open yourself up to the right mentality and the right stability in order to go out and open up your own agency at that point.
Yeah. Nope. 100%. 100%. So how is so 38 different states, man? A lot of insurance agents don't, I mean, they just pick one state or two states or something like that. Are there some things that producers should know? First of all, the benefit is then these truckers are all over. Like that's the difference, right? Like
Yep.
I don't think Jeremy is saying, "Hey, I'm going to write personal lines in 38 different states," because that gets really
Ooh.
complicated with non-residents and all that stuff. But on the trucking side, you almost have to, because like these truckers are all over when you're running into them. I guess what are some things that you have seen that have helped you, and do you recommend other people to go get those appointments other places before? Because I mean, right now, if somebody goes and even on the trucking side with Progressive says, "Hey, I want a non-resident state in Washington," like it's pretty tough to get it. So, okay, I'm curious on your thoughts of like if somebody has the ability, should they just do it because you just don't know what's going to happen?
As far as like getting the appointment, because you don't know if
Getting
it's
the
going to close
appointment,
up at
yeah,
some point.
yeah.
Yeah. In this market, I mean, there's pros and cons, right? So you have to kind of weigh it out. The price per state, a lot of these states are, $100, a couple $100. Some of them get up to $400, like Hawaii, I think is
Mm-hmm.
$400. In certain circumstances, Hawaii, definitely don't need to be licensed there. In my opinion, right now, it's just not large enough. But when it comes to getting those licenses, I would definitely say start with your resident, obvious. Start with those surrounding ones as well. 2 or 3
Mm-hmm.
states around your state. You'll notice in the trucking industry, it's not supposed to happen, and it's supposed to only happen when it's legitimate, but you can never really tell if it's legitimate or not. These trucking companies bounce around from state to state, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're located in Texas currently and they realize the market's up in Texas, then they're going to come up with an address in New Mexico. Again, it should be on the up and up, and I always ask my questions on my side, but you can never guarantee if they actually did move the business 100%. So they will bounce around from time to time, and you might not even know, right? They may be coming through having just switched the state from New Mexico to Texas or Oklahoma or whatever the case is. So having those up front will definitely help. And then being able to your point, have those before they close out, before some of these agencies or carriers get a little bit more strict, or even the states get strict. Florida in the last couple of years have made it near impossible for a non-resident to have a license, non-resident agency at least, to have a license in Florida if you don't have a physical location there, which is what Progressive was doing for a while. And I guess Florida caught on to that and kind of did the same thing. So yeah, if you can afford it, just the handful to start out with, and then go from there. My renewals right now for my states, I mean, I'm paying a couple grand a year basically, at least for my states. So it's not necessarily the best thing to get your feet wet into if you can prevent it, unless you're going to go all out in those states. So if you're doing home and auto, definitely would not recommend doing more than just a couple states surrounding you, especially if you're in a smaller state. Then you're going to want those states around as well. That way, when they move away, you don't have to find a referral partner. If they move one state over or something like that, then you can still handle them. So yeah, it's definitely beneficial to have at least a few states.
Yeah. I know we talked a little bit about some automation. Are there some things that you would be willing to share with the producers and
Absolutely.
agency owners?
Yeah, so I've got a Facebook group. It's called Automation Station Pros, or actually, it's Automation Station. The company's Automation Station Pros, but you can feel free to join it. I provide free information in there, free links, and some helpful tips. I've got some videos coming up this week for trainings. But if you're a producer and you don't want to put a lot of money into automation, I mean, obviously, there's two routes you can go. You can make recommendations to your agency, see if it's something that they're willing to implement. Agencies I worked for in the past never really did any automation, at least on the front end where producers could see. And I think that was a definite detriment to the agency. So you can recommend those, but then you can also go out and there's some very inexpensive ones. If you're trying to use or go through these Facebook groups and you don't have the time to manage it yourself day in and day out, hour after hour, and go and make these comments, there's groups trackers, there's other sorts of AI integrations and automations that'll assist with that. And they're as cheap as like $5 a month. So if you're a producer and you want to pay $5 a month and then have access to 10, 15, 20, 30 more successful and organic leads than you had access to previously, I think it's definitely worth it and beneficial. Zapier is a big no-code integration system that a lot of agency owners use. It integrates with a ton of different systems, with Facebook, with Messenger, with Easy Links, with your CRMs, Agency Zoom, PDF Filler. Simbly is another PDF company that I've been using lately. If you're on the producer side and you feel like that the Accord forms you're filling out for ENS, I do a lot of ENS Accord forms and supplemental forms for the trucking side of things. Takes a ton of time and I forget about it, or I mess it up. I hit the wrong button. I fill in the wrong information. I automated 100% of that using PDF Filler, Simbly, and Zapier, so that I don't ever have to touch it. When an intake form comes in, it gets 100% filled out. And then at that point, I can send it off wherever I need to, or I can have it automatically send out. That way I don't have to get bogged down with that. And from a producer standpoint, especially if you're commission based, you're not making money unless you're selling. And if you're being required to do any bit of that service or data entry on the back end, if you're able to automate it, and if your agency owner allows it, or it's something that's outside of their purview anyway, so it doesn't matter, definitely take that up and start automating as much as you can, even like I said, for like $5 or $10 a month, if that, to get started.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything else, man? I know we're kind of running. We only got a couple minutes. Anything else you'd like to share to the producers or agency owners that you're having some success with?
I mean, I think when it comes to Facebook in general, even just talking with people, right? Like I said before, never sell, always educate, always provide answers and solutions to questions or problems that persist or are in front of you. Don't try and, butt into something that's not related to you or related to insurance, and put yourself out there. I see it happen all the time. Producers do have success doing that, throwing themselves out there consistently, but it doesn't give you a good reputation. Doesn't give you a good taste in some people's mouths. So definitely just try and be organic, be fresh with it, be as sincere as possible, build those relationships. And I mean, one thing people I don't think do enough is on Facebook in general, just find a way to connect with people, even if it's on a normal post of yours, and mention somewhere in there maybe that you're an insurance agent, but do it organically. Don't put it in somebody's face. Every single post that I put on my personal Facebook, if I complain about the insurance industry, or if I talk about something positive that's happened in my agency or something like that, I immediately have at least 2 or 3 people commenting in that post wanting insurance, but then I've got 5, 6, 7 people messaging me and actually asking for information on it. And that's another thing I'd say is it's not about the engagement on the post specifically. You don't know what's going on in the back end and how many people are seeing it and interacting, that you don't recognize because they don't like the post or they don't comment on the post. So just keep pursuing, keep going through the motions for the most part, day in and day out, and time after time they'll come back around. I've got leads coming back. I reached out to them 8 months ago, and then they randomly reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, you talked to me before." And I'm like, "I don't remember you at all." So okay, let's go ahead and bind this policy that I apparently talked to you about 8 months ago.
That's awesome, man. So win the day. This is one of the questions, the last question we always ask, Jeremy. For some people, it's just a workout in the morning for sure. For some people, it's kissing their wife goodnight. For some people, it's just making 25 cold calls. That's like their recipe for success. If you had to pick like one or two things, what would be some things that you do on a daily basis that wins your day?
I'd say there's three specific things that it took me a long time to realize that I needed in my life, and I needed to set them as stepping stones that are going to happen every single day. So one is I do go to the gym every single day. Occasionally I'll miss like a Sunday, but at least 5 or 6 times a week I'm going to the gym. That's something I used to never do, never really paid attention to, but it's now become my therapy. So whether it's the gym, going for a walk, something similar to that, I definitely recommend it. The next being the fact that I work behind my computer in my home. I need to make sure that when I'm at my computer, I'm working at my computer. And when I am not needing to work, I get away from my computer. I have that little bit of separation. Otherwise, I sit behind my computer all day, every day working. And even if I'm not actively working, I feel that drain like I'm working. If I'm sitting here on my phone, I still feel like I'm working, even though I'm not getting anything done. And then the third being, especially because, again, I work from home, is getting out of the house in general. Going to the gym for that hour a day isn't necessarily enough because it becomes a routine so much that it doesn't feel like I'm separating myself. So occasionally, if I'm taking the kids to school in the morning, I might drive around for 15 or 20 minutes. But people don't realize that when you stop driving the 20, 30 minutes to work every day, and then you're just in your house all day, every day, on the weekends, etc., you never have that break or that separation where you used to have when you made those drives. So yeah, I mean, I roll the windows down, play some music, and for 20 minutes in the morning, I might be driving around, just kind of getting my head straight, and then jump on my calls for the day.
That's awesome. Jeremy, man, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on. Thanks for sharing your wisdom,
Definitely, man.
and let's stay connected.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for being on.